नमस्कार, शुरू करें? Shall we? Good afternoon, friends. We'll do both languages, so just be patient for a while. Friends, I am talking today about the approach, the antics of this government vis-a-vis a vital sector of governance in this country, an organ of governance known as the judiciary. And with great regret, I have to start by saying that the Modi government approach to the judiciary smacks of the three and I, where the three I's stand for intimidation, interference, and influence. These unfortunately have become the insignia, the notorious spikes of this government. The ruling party in this government can equally be accused of the three S's: an attempt to sabotage, subjugate, and subvert the judiciary. So, this deadly combination of the three I's, intimidate, interfere, and influence, along with the three S's, to subvert from within unnecessarily by all kinds of antics the judiciary, is deplorable. Friends, it is now possibly the worst kept secret for many years, both in legal circles and outside, that this control freak, this micromanagement and dossier loving Sarkar, control freak, micromanagement and dossier loving Sarkar, and its ruling party have indulged in several manipulative tactics qua the judiciary. Let me list to you four or five of them, or five or six of them very quickly, and then come to the context today. A, excessively but selectively delaying appointments, judicial appointment proposals from the collegium regarding High Court appointments and Supreme Court appointments. Justice Qureshi may be one example. There are many, many more. I don't want to take names. Second, this government and its ruling component in particular has arbitrarily bifurcated approved judicial appointee lists. So, what is done is selectively from a common list, you appoint 3, 4, 5 first, and then after few months, you appoint the others in that same common list, thereby irreversibly prejudicing their inter se seniority. Let me tell you, I am not in a position to take names, but this also has happened, indeed happened very recently, in respect of a very leading high court of the country. Third, this government and ruling party has inaugurated an ambience, an atmosphere of fear, trepidation, anxiety, and hesitation. Tried to do this among the judicial sector by the misuse of this dossier raj and oblique insinuations based thereupon. Number 4, it has tried to prevail upon judicial collegia. As you know, collegiums are always anxious to fill up ever increasing vacancies. So, to take advantage of this urgency to fill vacancies, they have constantly tried to prevail upon judicial collegia to do punitive transfers of those perceived as inconvenient. Fifthly, it has attempted illegally and unfairly to interfere whenever it so deems fit according to its own narrow thinking with judges, judiciary, and the legal process generally. Last but not the least, it has attempted to install a section of judicial personnel vetted by it and its supporters on impermissible tests of loyalty, ideology, and commitment to its own norms. Friends, interference, if we look at, for example, out of the three I's, interference, intimidation, and influence, there is a long, non exhaustive list which I could give. But the most startling, the most shocking example comes from Karnataka only yesterday. It is not Karnataka which matters, it is not the High Court or the judge who matters. It is symptomatic of this deep seated malaise. The learned sitting judge of that court just yesterday said, and I quote, I'm quoting, mind you, a sitting judge told me that he had received a call from Delhi, bracket name not disclosed. The person from Delhi asked about me. I told him that I am not affiliated to any party. He said that the additional DGP is from North India and he is very powerful. The High Court judge said, adding that a reference was also made by that judge who talked to this High Court judge regarding transfer of another judge. This has been quotes. Honorable Justice Sandesh, who said this in quotes, added that he had reported this perceived threat to the authorities. And he said that it amounts to a direct interference in the independence and of the judiciary and dispensation of justice. This is only symptomatic. I have given you 6 categories of the antics, the tricks, the shenanigans adopted to do this for the last 7-8 years. Intimidation, for example, when a bench of the Supreme Court made strong and directly pertinent observations for the simple reason that the person concerned in the Nipur Sharma case was seeking relief of the court. When they made directly pertinent observations regarding the conduct of that person seeking relief, namely Nipur Sharma, we saw three-pronged attack. And this three-pronged attack is the signature campaign of the BJP. All too familiar. One, savage and faceless trolls spewing fake news and propaganda immediately started. Second, an orchestrated letter by so-called intellectuals. And three, a one-sided and contemptuous reporting planted in large sections of the Godi media. The large silent majority stood by this vital, possibly most fated and supported organ of governance, the judiciary. But a sitting judge of the Supreme Court, Justice Pardiwala, was forced to observe, and I quote, attacks attempted at our judges for judgments will lead to a dangerous scenario where judges will have to pay greater attention as to what the media thinks rather than what the law actually mandates. This puts the rule of law on the burner, ignoring the sanctity of the respect for the courts, unquote. Please juxtapose this statement of a sitting Supreme Court judge with the kind of trolling attacks which happened immediately after the bench dealt with that case. City with authority even above the judiciary and with reckless over adventurism intended to intimidate judges. I just want to remind you of a little remembered comment by then Minister Mr. Meghwal of the ruling BJP in 2016, 6 years ago, who said that you must have a stop put to the running commentary by the judiciary against other organs of the state, quote unquote, running commentary. Influence, for example. It is sad to find that a fact checker, the person under arrest is a fact checker. He simply checks facts and says, this is a false claim. The entire army of law officers was put out by the government to oppose bail matters, quote this fact checker. The entire army of law, senior law officers were saying what? They were saying, in a worse case than shooting the messenger while ignoring the message, they were speaking in defense of those whose illegal conduct had been exposed by that fact checker. It was a sad sight. They desperately and sheepishly opposed the bail on grounds that were far removed. For example, it is reported and well known, some of us were in court. One of the arguments of the state was that the sentiments of followers had been hurt by having a seer's hate speeches exposed. So you give a hate speech, so-called seer, I expose it by a fact check or by showing it, and my exposition or my exposure will hurt your feelings, is the argument officially orchestrated by this ruling party and the government, is that all of this is part of a grand shady conspiracy. Such small-minded and outrightly unconstitutional claims expose this government and its defenses in court. Friends, I will end by telling you two more things. One is, of course, official written representations. And one is as recent as 10th July. Today is, I think, 12th, 2 days ago, by one of the largest high courts in this country, Bombay, to the law minister, taking objection to the clearance, or rather the non-clearance, of umpteen names for appointment to the Bombay High Court. That affiliated among is functioning just about half, roughly, of its strength. People in the lists approved at the collegium level not once but twice over 2 to 3 years are still pending, with the court functioning at 50% odd strength. Lastly, friends, and this is a second slightly unrelated but still relevant point in connection with the judicial subject we are talking about today. A very important judgment yesterday deserves to be underlined by the Supreme Court regarding bail jurisprudence. We have, friends, over the last 7 years seen egregious executive action on flimsy grounds, usually invoking inapplicable provisions like sedition, like UAPA, the most draconian they can find on the book. The biggest defaulters in this misuse of provisions, inapplicable provisions, has been the central government. Equally, they know that the process is the punishment. The end result be damned. The process is the punishment. Tardiness or hesitation of courts through bail intervention in such contexts exacerbates this bad situation. Hence, friends, the relevance of yesterday's judgment. The Supreme Court yesterday has said that the lack of speed in dealing with bails, as also a hesitation to grant them, would, quote unquote, make India look like a police state. The Congress believes that this is much needed guidance from the Apex Court about the approach to bails and about how bail, not jail, being the norm is operationalized in practice. And I say that this is particularly contextual and important where the ruling dispensation seeks to rule through fear and control through coercion. We, therefore, the Congress Party, intend, using due process of law, in accordance with the Constitution and subject to judgment, and we shall initiate it through appropriate state amendment